And welcome back. Families for Freedom is a New York City-based organization that's advocating for detainees across the country. Now, within the past 2 decades, they've been able to build numerous alliances with organizations across the United States in order to expand the amount of support it can offer to immigrants, educate marginalized communities, and fight against repressive immigration laws. Joining me now, we have the Executive Director for Families for Freedom, Janay Cauthen. And Janay, thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you. It's great work that you guys are doing. And I wonder if you would take a few seconds to just expand a little bit about what I talked about, because when we talk about the work that's going on, there's so many families that actually need this hand up.
Yeah, so basically, Families for Freedom is based in New York City. We have been advocating against the injustices against immigrants for the last 21 years. So we help people that's at risk for being deported back to their country because they're undocumented. We just had a press conference yesterday for someone who served 29 years in the New York State correctional facility for a murder that he didn't commit. And we're trying to get the DA to exonerate this person because the detective on the case has came forth and stated that he knew that Wayne Gardine was not guilty, but he had to do what he had to do because he was working for a corrupt precinct known as the Dirty 30 in Harlem.
Yeah, many of us here in New York City are familiar with the Dirty 30. We did that story many years ago, but the fact is that the issue still remains. And there's a lot of work to be done when it comes to really tapping into the lives of those people who are affected. We talk about immigration. What is your perspective on immigration as we see it and the needs of families right now?
I feel that the president should create a pathway to citizenship for everyone. New York City is the melting pot. We're filled with people from all different cultures, races, ethnicity, and to create an uncomfortable environment for them because they were not born on U.S. soil. To me, it's not the best thing to do because immigrants are not going anywhere. They're here to stay. I myself are the daughter of a Jamaican immigrant who migrated to the United States.
And I know recently that you've had an event that was called the Defund Hate. That's the immigration rally. Talk to us about the rally and talk to us about your look back at it.
So the rally represented 20 years since they put these harsh immigration laws into effect that run retroactively. So say, for example, someone got arrested in the 70s and they were only a green card holder, they will become deportable based on their conviction because of the retroactive immigration laws.
So I also want to talk about a new way forward. We talked about what's going back. Let's talk about go forward. A new way forward. What's that mean?
So basically, a new way forward is giving non-citizens a pathway to citizenship, creating a new way forward because a lot of immigrants are hiding. They're not getting medical care. They're not reporting crime because they're feeling that they're going to be detained and deported if they come out of the darkness. And we're telling them they need to create a new way forward.
I had a guest on just a little while ago, Jose Francisco Avila from the Garifuna Coalition, and he was talking a little bit about immigration itself. And I had asked him a question about whether or not those who are in the system trying to get their cards and trying to get right, how are they experiencing many delays? And he said yes. He said not only is there experiencing delays, but there's a shortage of services. From your landscape, talk to us about that. Do you see the delays as well, and do you also see that when it comes to immigrants, particularly here in New York City, that there's a shortage of services?
Yes, there's a shortage of services. We have people who have been waiting for 5 years for a work permit, and that's insane because they're not allowing them to work, but then after they pay for the work permit, it's been a 5 year wait. And then the pandemic didn't do anything better. A lot of people left the job. I feel they should make more jobs available or hire more people to expedite these cases. New York just got about 30,000 migrants from Texas, and they put them in homeless shelters, and a lot of people want to work. So they should find a way to expedite their work permit so they can work and take care of their families.
Talk about migration, but let's also talk about deportation. We're seeing mass people being deported out of the United States, given to stricter laws, particularly by ICE and other law enforcement government agencies. Uh, your perspective on deportation?
Deportation is cruel and inhumane. My former spouse, Jean Montreville, he came to the U.S. at the age of 17. He made a bad choice and got arrested for selling drugs at the age of 19. During the time of his arrest, the laws were not in effect that made him deportable. They used to call it a permanent resident card. So a permanent resident card back then means you have a permanent status here. So while he was serving his time for the drug conviction, they ordered him deported. He was released in 2001 instead of being deported. And then he was detained in 2005 because they made a mistake releasing him on U.S. soil. And he was sent to Haiti. Haiti is like a third country. I had to take our children to visit him, and I was fearful for my life. I was happy that I did file for a pardon when this case first started back in 2005. And Governor Ralph Northam finally granted him a pardon in 2021, and he was able to come back to the U.S.
Amazing. But there's so many immigrants that don't get that story. So many times that story is not heard in the lives and experiences of countless, so many people. And to end up on a deportation list, to end up on a discrimination list, is because simply sometimes people just don't know what's available to them. And I know that you have some training that comes to immigrants actually being able to know their rights. And for those that don't know, why don't you introduce them to the Know Your Rights training and who can attend?
The Know Your Rights training everyone could attend. You should never open up your door to any law enforcement unless they slide a warrant under the door. Even if a cop stops you, do not share your immigration status. Do not volunteer any information. Tell them you would like to speak to a lawyer. And if you need more information, you can reach out to Families for Freedom. We will send you pamphlets, and you can send me an email. My name is Janay. It's JANAY at familiesforfreedom.org.
And I know you have access to a lot of resources. What are some of the other resources that are available through your organization?
We have free mental health for people in need. We have social services. We have housing services. We have clothing donations. We have Metro card assistance. And our office is just a comfortable, safe haven. Like if you just want to come someplace to talk, vent, and just chill, you can. We're located at 35 West 31st Street on the seventh floor, and you're welcome to just come by.
When you look at the work and the body of work that you've done so far, a lot of families have been touched. How do you feel about the impact that the organization has made within so many families and within our community?
I feel good because I've actually learned to turn my pain into power. Back in 2005, Families of Freedom was an organization that helped my family because at the time I was not, you know, understanding all the immigration laws, and I didn't understand how a law could run retroactive for immigrants but not citizens. And I never in a million years imagined running the same organization that helped my family. But I share my story to give people hope and tell them don't hide. It's okay to go on the news and speak and fight for your family because I look at the system as being racist because usually it's black and brown people that's dealing with this. And we saw on the news where they were beating Haitians with whips and chains, and the president stated that he needed to investigate that. And to me, that's like modern day slavery. What is there to investigate? Those people should have been prosecuted. For a person to be in water on horses and stuff to get here with their children to show that should show this government and country that where they're at is rough.
Yeah. And you're a young person that's on the battlefield and engaging in in this fight. What would you say to others who are, young adults about really being engaged in this form of community activism?
I would tell young people that you are the future. Stand up, get involved, help out. Even if you came here, your parents brought you here. You had no control on how you got here. Stay out of trouble until you become a citizen. You shouldn't get in trouble at all. But if you get into trouble as a green card holder, it doesn't matter if you're 16, 17, you can become deportable because we have seen a member get deported for being an excessive fear invader. So basically, he hopped the train multiple times and he was so swiped, and they deported him for that.
And so for yourself, as a young lady that's really on the battlefield, what do you see in terms of when it comes to resources and things available? Do you find that families are taking advantage of them? And do you find that there's awareness for people who really are going through it?
Some families are taking advantage of them, and some of them are actually scared because they feel like, hey, if I go down and apply for food stamps, they're going to report me to ICE. If I go into a homeless shelter, they're going to report me to ICE. So we just, at Families for Freedom, most of us are directly impacted people, meaning someone in our family has been detained or deported. So we go out and we speak to the public about it. And then once they see that someone's been in their shoes, they feel more comfortable, open up to us. And we use them as a examples to let them know that they're not going through this alone.
Yeah. When you see people who have been detained, a lot of times that's the beginning of the deportation process, or to be detained is the beginning of a frustrating process where you're investigated and held for a long period of time. What happens for yourself? Are you seeing that the those who are being detained have a greater access to knowing their rights and knowing what's happening, or is it from not knowing you become that victim?
I would say they don't know their rights. I would tell anyone that who had any criminal contact to apply for a pardon. A pardon is free. That's your right. Don't wait until ICE come knocking on your door. Or wait. Don't think because you're free now that they won't come knocking on your door because I've seen it happen. You can get into a relationship with someone, he or she call the cops on you. They like, oh, you were convicted with a felony. So and you're not a citizen. We're gonna put you in detention. And once you get into detention, it's so hard to get out.
Yeah. And so, uh, if I'm looking out right now and I'm seeing what's going on in regards to immigration, in regards to families, it's a lot to contend with. What do you put at the top of the priority list right now?
A pathway to citizenship.
Why?
Because New York City is filled with immigrants. They're not going anywhere. So you have to give them a path to citizenship. When we go into these restaurants, our servers are mostly immigrants. So we have to give them a pathway to citizenship. They can help the economy. A lot of people left city service because of the vaccine mandate. Those jobs can be filled by immigrants that's willing to work and get the job done.
Yeah, we see that a lot of immigrants have actually made their way in, and was having a conversation just recently with some elected officials, and they were saying more and more have actually taken advantage in the travel and tourism industry of immigrants because there's such a turnover that immigrants are actually taking front and center stage in the area of tourism, working in hotels and working on cruise ships and the whole 9 yards.
Yeah, and they will do a lot of the jobs that citizens think that they're too good to do. I mean, we have dealt with people who's re-entering after serving, say, 20 years in state prison, and the citizens say, "Oh, I'm not going to clean up nothing. I'm not going to sweep." I'm like, "Well, dude, you just served 20 years for murder. You got to crawl before you walk." But an immigrant will take that custodial job and do what they have to do to care for their family.
Let me switch fronts for a minute and have an opportunity to hear from you in the area of education. What are some of the educational challenges that you find that you're facing with your families?
The educational challenges would be language because a lot of the migrants that came over, they speak Spanish, and we don't have an influx of Spanish teachers that's willing to take their time with the students. So I would say language is a big barrier. And for
So
the parents, they were not able to get educated like some of us were. So they don't know how to read and write because they had to work from their country when they were very young.
literacy is a huge issue, right? And I
Yeah.
think that illiteracy is a big challenge, particularly in the demographic that you're dealing with. Do you have services that are able to deal with the illiteracy issue?
Yes, we have training for them. We have ELA classes that we can refer them to where they can learn how to speak English. We have GED programs where they will prepare them and teach them how to learn the basics that they need to learn to pass their GED. And it's free.
Yeah, yeah. And so, greatest stumbling block or greatest obstacle you talked about, what's out there in terms of families. Talk to us about from that perspective, being an executive director and budgetary issues in the state. What are some of the biggest obstacles you're facing through state, city, in terms of aid? Because resources, from what we understand, particularly amongst non-for-profits and those who are doing the work in the non-for-profit sector, are really beginning to shrink up.
Yeah, is very hard because a lot of funders are running out of money. And New York got hit very hard with additional migrants. We already had, I don't want to say we had an immigration issue, but we had an issue where it was undocumented people seeking resources that's been here for decades. And then when we got hit with 30 more thousand people, the resources is hard. But we're very creative and we network with a lot of funders and, they find a way to fund this work.
And before we go, the COVID-19 pandemic has definitely played a major effect on all of our lives. How's it impacted your organization?
Well, our organization, we have monthly membership gatherings, and before the pandemic, we would have a full house. We still have members who lost loved ones that's scared to like meet in person because they feel that they're gonna get COVID and die. So we give a virtual option now. So basically, we can do the monthly membership meeting in person, and those that are not comfortable meeting, we just have the Zoom so they can watch it while we live stream it.
Well, Janay, great meeting you. Great work that you're doing over there. Families for Freedom, Executive Director. Thank you so much for being with us today here on the Social Justice Forum.
Thank you.